Yo, dudes, what's going on with y'all? This week I decided to go ahead and take a look at Stoneheart. I know nothing about it, but there's a Durgan on the cover, and it's read by Jim Dale, and honestly, any excuse to have him wriggling around in my ear holes is worth the journey. So let's do this. Beware, because spoilers be lurking ahead. So it's worth mentioning that I'm doing my best to not let it influence my opinion of the novel, but it is a really smart choice to let Jim Dale do this for people my age who grew up listening to his voicing of the Harry Potter series. Like, literally, just from the intro of, "This is Audible," and the tingly heart music, my brain is doing happy tingles. Jim Dale has not yet said a single letter. Nothing of this book has happened, and I have happy tingles. Like I said, I'm attempting to keep my own personal subjective view out of the objective view, but it's worth mentioning. So, we pick up some ponderings on a student named George, who longs to be a part of the in crowd. It's even brought up that he never questions why he wants to be in, he just does. This is actually a good introduction in just a few sentences. Of course, from a higher place of observation, we can understand that he wants to be in as a bigger piece of social acceptance, interaction, and even some personal validation. But, as this is a student, George likely doesn't have that type of introspection. Way to dump me right into some moist booking. Yeah, I'm still gonna use that term, fuck you. So George is a 12-year-old who's all excited about being all grown up. He is a big boy now. We also hear about his issues at home and how much he actually misses being really close to his dad. His dad and mom are divorced, and his dad did the deadsies, so now George and his dad don't get to talk, and he feels hurt by the things his mother wistfully throws out about him. It's more of a sledgehammer than a scalpel to make us feel the protagonist's plight, but nevertheless effective. We're then introduced to the school bully, who basically tells George to get lost, but he doesn't because he fears it'll just make him a bigger target. The bully then uses the age-old tactic of immediately causing trouble and then acting as if it's George's fault for the whole thing. Which works. This is a bit of a trope, but it's also very true to life for anyone who's struggled with school bullies or sibling rivalries. Again, more sledgehammer than scalpel, but not bad. George gets pulled aside and speeched at by the teacher, who demands an apology or to know who started the whole thing, and George refuses to speak. He can't out the bully because even schoolyard boys know that snitches get stitches. Nor can he apologize when he clearly wasn't the wronged party. It's a solid depiction of schoolboy stubbornness, and even reminded me of some of the 3-hour-long debates I had with my father when I refused to back down. So, good depiction of the character and characterization. So far on, it's pretty good. I'm in. Anyhow, teacher leaves George to jolly well sit down and think about what you did until you're ready to apologize. I would like to know if that has ever actually worked on anyone ages 10 to 18. Anyhow, the moment the teacher leaves, George walks out into the courtyard because, yeah, obviously the museum guards don't give a shit about what he does. In the courtyard, there are several stone sculptures, and in a mix of painful teen memories and preteen angst, George punches the head of a stone dragon. To his surprise, he doesn't end up bleeding and knocks the head off entirely before he hears a noise behind him. Thinking it's his teacher, he hastily stuffs the head into his pocket and turns around to find a stone pterodactyl that has come to life and wants to nom him. Nom nom. So George runs away, cause yeah, what is he gonna do about it, and ends up screaming on the street for help, only no one else seems to even notice the giant prehistoric dinosaur waddling up the street. I was gonna call this out if it wasn't addressed, but as it is, I have to say it feels eerily similar to a psychotic break filled with violent hallucinations. So, George sprints far and fast, trying to find some form of help, but no one can appear to see, hear, or be aware of the stone attackers in any way, until suddenly he's rescued by a bronze soldier with a revolver, and I mean bronze in the literal sense. So the soldier who saved George suddenly starts talking, and basically says,
"Come with me if you want to live."
And after a moment of wondering what the fuck is happening, George agrees. So, we get introduced to something of a war between statues, where the evil statues are called, and I swear I'm not making this up, taints. Really? I refuse to believe you didn't know what that also means. Good statues are called spits, which normally I would make fun of, but it's much better than taints. So the gunner's spit explains to George how he's fallen into a layer of an alternate reality of London, in which spits and taints fight. And while other people can technically see them, their minds refuse to accept it, so they pretend that they don't see it, because statues walking around and fighting is impossible. This instantly makes me wonder what it means if a taint attacks somebody who can't accept them. Is this one of those, if I don't believe in you, you can't hurt me things? Because, if not, taints have the easiest hunting cycle ever. Anyhow, George and Gunnar are approached by some girl named ED, and Gunnar insists she can't see them, so they make stupid faces. Whereupon she reveals that she can see them just fine, and thinks that they're just being stupid. Don't worry, Gunnar, I hear that 1 in 5 men struggle with ED, especially after blasting into 3 taints like that. Look, I wasn't gonna make that stupid joke, but the book has really lined that up for me, and I swear I'm not making these names up. Anyhow, Gunnar bluntly refuses to travel with ED because she is a glint, which are widely considered to be terrible luck or cursed omens. This is left pretty vague, honestly. ED and George have no clue what he's on about, but Gunnar attempts to ditch her and almost succeeds. Then he takes George to a set of sphinxes that are half spit, half taint. You're permitted to ask a question in return for answering a riddle. I will say that having Jim Dale read a book in which a sphinx asks a tough riddle seems uncannily similar to a certain book released at the turn of the century. No idea why. In actuality, I don't know if this is something that the author made up or not, but the riddle's pretty good. And while I did manage to work it out, it did take me pausing and considering it for a few hot minutes. George asks how he can keep from being deaded, and just in case you're like me and love riddles, I will recite it here for you. I am a suit no man may wear, neither peasants nor kings, yet no man goes without me. What's remembered by me shall be well worn, what lies at me is the reason for all things. All may touch me when soft, none when I am stone. Lose me and you will falter, yet if I am taken, you shall find courage anew. What am I? I'll let you keep listening to the review. I answer at the end. Anyhow, George eventually works out the answers, and the Sphinxes give a horribly confusing answer to his question, which even I couldn't follow entirely, and it means absolutely nothing to the 12-year-old. So George starts declaring that the Sphinxes cheated. ED, who finally worked her way there, agrees with him and declares them cheats as well, and asks what a glint is, which I would also like to know. They then ask her how one of them got damaged, which is very much not a riddle. However, this is actually done to show ED's powers, which is to relive the moments in the past. I'm not sure if she has to be in exactly the same place where the event happened to relive it, but she sort of drifts between planes of existence and exists in all of them. This sounds like an idea someone on Wii came up with, but it's not exactly bad. It is, however, confusing as fuck. Anyhow, there's a fight with a dragon where the gunner sacrifices himself, except he's probably still alive. After that, the book begins to drag pretty fucking hard here. There's a whole bit about how they need to visit someone called the Black Friar, and now Edie's totally invested for some reason. I honestly have no clue why. George goes back home, being stalked by some taint, and then is immediately full on back into the adventure, affecting absolutely nothing and serving very little purpose. Yes, the refusal of the call is a thing in the hero's journey, but this feels like a very unnecessary padding. This isn't exactly a short book. Anyhow, time passes on, George and Edie find out what he needs, which is fairly obvious from chapter 1, and he brings it to a place that meant nothing to my imperialist scumdog brain, and the gunner turns up after his death being baited like 5 times, and I felt nothing at all because it was way too drawn out. Anyhow, I was going to let this book off by saying it was just boring, but something happened. Something broke the magic spell for me, pitiful as it may have been. The gunner repeatedly mentions how George has changed, how he's his own man now, and more confident, despite it literally being a day. George accidentally loses something important to ED and is like, hey, my mission is timed, so we'll do that and then go back and get her thing. Gunner basically tells him he's being a dick and screwed her over and that he should go back. So George agrees and goes back. So much for making his own decisions. Then, 2 seconds later, Gunner compliments George on how selfless he's being because he's going back to help ED. Like, fuck me, man. How do you manage to have it both ways and somehow be wrong twice? How do you do that? Also, ED got taken by a Minotaur for really contrived reasons that I won't care to go into. And there's a really creepy scene where the Minotaur feels up a 12-year-old, and I know the book says that it's because he wants to eat her, but it feels really R-wordy. Anyway, I won't go into details on the ending because the twist it provides is one you need a lot more detail to understand, but let me put it like this. If at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Vader says,
"No, I am your father. But I was also your older twin brother that was stillborn, and you're your own grandpa."
And in response to this, Luke just smiles and says, well, I better get back into the past and impregnate Grandma. That's about the level this ending is on, down to the extremely inappropriate reaction. My personal score is 2.5 out of 10. Sorry, book, try as you may, Jim Dale can't save you forever. You might have started out high, but you crashed hard. Oh yeah, if you're curious about the answer to the riddle, it was heart. Let's go ahead and take a look at that bingo card. And we ended up beating that card like it owes me money. 7 crosses and 4 corners. Well done, book. Hey, anyhow, that's all for this time. So if you have something else you want me to review, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know. If you want to see what we get into next time, go ahead and subscribe. Until then, drink plenty of water, tell your parents that you love them, and stroke your mustache at night. Wow.